All right, so now we're going to address the intermediate levels of kindness. If you'd prefer to keep it simple, which would be the beginning, and as is often the case, also the master level, by keeping it simple, I would ask you to refer to my most immediately previous video. Um, had echoes of kindness in the title. So the thing about kindness is it has layers because of intentions, right? So we get into things like that nasty word, grooming. It's not just about brushing one's own teeth anymore, where people use kindness as leverage for nefarious means, for tricking people, for luring them into a false sense of safety, when they're actually intending to, at the worst end of the spectrum, do great harm, commit acts that the person wouldn't otherwise consent to if they hadn't been groomed first, if they hadn't been coerced into it by thinking they could trust this person because they are doing kind things for them, giving them gifts, flattering them, hanging out with them, not because they enjoy hanging out with them, but for the purpose of getting something out of them, whether it's information, energy, attention. And there's a lot of levels of this. Not everything everyone does is evil. Sometimes it's just people's level of understanding is a little more limited, so they can't maybe even see the effects of their actions, or they've never known anything better, never had anything better modeled for them. Again, refer to the previous more brief video. I would give you a link, but that video is so short, it only let me post it as a short because my numbers aren't big and bad yet, and that's okay. I put these videos up to help who was meant to find them when they're meant to find them, and if it even helps one person, I'm good with that. So, layers of kindness, even when there's nefarious undertones, at least there was some kindness in it, and some kindness is better than none. But it's important to recognize things like false flattery. That is such a tricky one. And the way to recognize it is to not need flattery to begin with, to have confidence in ourselves. And this takes work, and it takes overcoming years, sometimes many generations of entrainment, of not feeling valid, not feeling like we're good enough, just as we are, even when we're imperfect, because we're all imperfect to be on this planet. Right? Our skin is degrading over time unless and until we learn to age backwards. Our processes may accidentally step on an ant. It is intrinsic to being manifest here that the path is gonna be a little messy sometimes. It's how we learn, and the beauty really is in the imperfections. So instead of fearing that we're imperfect, the more we start to truly embrace the fact that we are not gonna get it perfect, and there is not an absolute right or wrong. There's just trying to do better, trying to improve, trying to learn more about unconditional love, and doing the best we can in the moment, even knowing it can't always be perfect. And the more we accept those truths in our own lives, the more we stop feeling this need to validate ourselves with things that we buy, with rumors that we swallow and or repeat, with stories that we buy. We stop needing to reach so much outside of ourselves for validation, whether it's through the comfort from the rush of food that will never be fully processed by our body, but it converts to glutino opioids or queso opioids. Look them up. That give us a direct rush, or sugar that gives us a very, very direct opioid rush. It's so important that we get more and more independent. Now, this doesn't mean flipping the bird to everybody we see all the time, okay? This means that I am powerful in my own right and I'm never going to cooperate. This isn't that, okay? You can be independent and also interdependent, which is very different from codependent. Codependent means you need other people for validation. You need other people or you fall over. Okay? That's different from cooperating at appropriate times, at some of the times, but carrying within you always an ever increasing understanding of yourself, of love, of kindness, worrying less about looking right and worrying more about doing right, even when nobody's looking. These are ripples that can't be stopped. And with that being said, watch out. There's a lot of people practicing patterns that are not sustainable, practicing patterns that do damage to themselves and others, even if a lot of times they don't realize it at the time or don't care because they're too afraid to look within, to get to know their own shadow, their own unsolved mysteries, and find their strengths in that. They're afraid of their imperfections. They're afraid of their own unknowns. Instead of exploring those, they project those fears into their outside world. They're scared of the holes and they try to fill them the fastest way they can, which a lot of times is taking other people's time and attention and focus and redirecting them into their fear-based process. This is not a journey for the faint of heart. There will be people who may go their entire lifetimes without getting this, and that's okay. Not everybody gets it every time. That's okay. But if you are serious about wanting to understand what is going on in the in-between, between that beginning level and that mastery level of just be kind, if your mind needs something to do, if your mind needs it explained, in those moments you just can't get it to shut up, that's okay. Your mind is a valuable tool too, and your mind needs to accumulate more tools in its toolkit to be able to function better. Your mind is brilliantly gifted, but it has been entrained to believe some things that just aren't good for you and that aren't true in accordance with the laws of the universe. And this is not about religion. It's not about woo-woo. It's not about blame or shame. It's about using our minds better. So these are some new tools and some research that you can do on your own to start learning more, or just reinforcing some things you may have already known, helping you remember some things you may have known all along in your grand connection to the grand universe. There's those meadowlarks again. I find it funny because I think that might have been grackles behind me before. Grackles have a what many find to be somewhat unpleasant, shrill sound that they make. It's just a scratching, unpleasant space bug sound. Some space bug sounds are very pleasant. But when they're around meadowlarks, they start making beautiful meadowlark noises for a while afterwards. So even when people aren't intending to, when their processes aren't sustainable, they make ways for sustainable processes, one way or another. Doot doot, time's up. Have a great day, y'all. Blessings.